Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com, where if you use the promo code BOXES, you will get a free entry to your first draft. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Mike, I don't even want to waste the minutes asking you my special question of the day because today we're talking about the Bulls. And I feel like you have a lot to say about the Bulls, so I'm going to save the time.
I appreciate that. It's about the nicest thing you've ever done for me. This is the episode I think everybody's been waiting for. All the Patreon subscribers, special shout out to them. Patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. You get exclusive content. You can get entry into Tyler's fantasy league. All of them have been excited about the Chicago Bulls podcast. Here we are, the moment everybody's been waiting for. It is time to preview one of the greatest franchises in the history of sports, the Chicago Bulls.
So are you excited to watch the Bulls this year?
So it's been a long road. As long-term listeners probably know, and maybe some of the new people out there probably don't. I just recently stopped being a season ticket holder for the Chicago Bulls. I've been a Chicago Bulls fan my whole life. And this is the first time I've been sort of interested in watching Bulls game without the dread of potential injuries or incompetence just completely hanging over my head at every turn since, I guess, the first Derrick Rose injury.
So you're excited and you gave up your season tickets. What kind of logic is that?
I'm broke. I don't have any money.
All right, that's fair.
So that's a good reason to give up your season tickets. No, I figured a lot of people give up their season tickets lately and get back on the waiting list. And by the time this new, I guess, I don't know, there's no name for this Bulls team yet. It's Baby Bulls 2.0 maybe. No one's given them a name yet. There certainly aren't the Hoy Boys, the Hoiberg Boys. That's a terrible name. The Hoy Boys. I'm going with that one.
That sounds like some 80s pop band, the Hoy Boys.
Here come the Hoy Boys. That sounds like a terrible Taiwanese late night show. Sounds terrible. But no, the Chicago Bulls, I'm excited about their season. I think a lot of people are. I think their over-under is 28. That actually feels low. They are very young. They're not going to play any defense. And they're going to spread the floor out and shoot a bunch of three-pointers and run the floor and be young, and it's going to be good.
They are probably going to be one of the three worst teams, though, right?
I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think they'll be. I could say Atlanta's going to be worse.
I'll give you that one.
Orlando is going to be worse.
I don't know about that one, Michael. I'm on the fence.
Orlando's going to be worse. Phoenix is going to be worse. The Kings are going to be worse.
I'll give you the Kings.
The Nets are going to be worse.
The Nets, maybe. I'm not giving you Phoenix. I think Phoenix is better than Chicago this year. Give me that roster over Chicago's.
No, that's ridiculous. That's not true.
Dude, Phoenix has like the three best players in that.
Devin Booker. I'm not. I don't. Try to tell me who's better than Lowry Markkanen on that team other than Devin Booker.
For real basketball,
I think real basketball.
I think Ayton will be better.
Okay, that's. I disagree, but all right.
And I don't know. Trevor Reese is old now, so I won't say him.
No.
That's probably only two.
They got the best player, and maybe the third best player. But Chicago's got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I
Give
don't
me,
know, man.
give me,
Don't even try to tell me Zach LaVine's good, man. Like, okay,
I
he might score 20 points a game, but he's giving up 35. He's a net
yeah,
negative if you're trying to win basketball
that's
games.
fine, but scoring is still important. So like he's not worse than whoever their the bench player. He wouldn't play on the bench in Phoenix.
I don't know, man.
He's a starter in
At
Phoenix.
least give me
So
the shot to develop Josh Jackson over him.
yeah, whatever. All right, let's get to the fantasy portion of this podcast. Tyler, the Chicago Bulls are out there. They have some good fantasy players, but let's start with a question that we always start with in our, not always, but mostly always start with in our 30 teams in over 30 days series. What is the most interesting fantasy thread going into the season for the Chicago Bulls?
Well, for me, it's the addition of Jabari Parker and how that affects the likes of Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine, right? We've seen Parker be a 20-point per game scorer when he plays big minutes. So can there really be 18 to 20-point scorers on this team? Like, is that a possibility? I'm not sure about that.
I mean, if they're going to play hopefully at a higher pace this year, I believe they were 10th in pace last year, which is a good sign for all you fantasy owners out there. And they're going to spread the floor out now that they have Wendell Carter Jr., who they ended up drafting, who could be probably one of the best pickups in the draft, could be the best player in this draft. I wouldn't put money on that, but he could be. The time will tell of how good Wendell Carter is going to be. Chandler Hutchison allegedly is a decent bench piece. They're going to be able to spread that floor out with Jabari and Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn all being able to get to the hoop a little bit more when Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. are able to stand around and hit threes. Like, that's just going to open up lanes. There is a way this is one of the most interesting offenses in the East, in the Eastern Conference.
Well, in the sense that, listen, I think you're going to love matching up against these guys in DFS too. Dunn is probably a pretty good defender, but other than that,
they're all other than Dunn, who is an excellent defender. They're all trash defenders. I'm not trying to say they're going to win games.
No. So that's my point, though, right?
I don't care about winning games. I care about winning fantasy leagues.
Well, and that's my point is, right, there's going to be a lot of track meets on this team because they're going to score.
Definitely.
So there's going to be a lot of track meets, and that's something you want to face, right? If the Bulls aren't going to play any defense, if I'm streaming, I think I'm going to be targeting guys playing the Bulls relatively frequently because I'm looking at some of these defenders and going, man, you can't guard anybody.
And it's just going to be up and down. And if you are looking at matchups, probably playing the Bulls, even last year playing the Bulls was probably a good sign for someone you're picking up, thinking about streaming. The Bulls are going to be a great team to stream against because they're just not going to play defense. And I'm totally okay with that. But I think you're right. The addition of Jabari Parker on the team is going to be the most interesting thing, how that affects the usage rate of Lauri Markkanen, who was the best fantasy player on this team last year. Is Lauri Markkanen still the best fantasy player on this team this year?
Yeah, I think so. If you listen to Mark's rankings, that's not the case. We can talk about that in a minute. The thing about Markkanen that I'm interested to see is the thing. Okay, so first I'll say the thing I don't like, and then I'll say the thing I'm interested to see. It's 0.6 blocks and 0.6 steals last year. You don't love to see that from someone you are going to pick in the top 50 potentially. Like, his Yahoo ADP's 51.1.
Yeah, that's a little high, but not terribly high, just simply because of the rest of his skill set. Half a block, half a steal, a little over a half a block, little over a half the steal is much, much better than 0.2 steals and a half a block. You know, like, it's not terrible, but it's also not good.
So I'll ask you this too. The bench looks poor. So is Hoiberg going to run some of these guys some more minutes this year? Like, we'll talk, Markkanen got 29.7 a game last year. Chris Dunn got 29.3. Like, is he going to bump these guys to 32, 33 minutes? Because, I mean, there's not a great bench. I mean, we could talk maybe Robin Lopez or Wendell Carter. Like,
in the backcourt, you gotta have the feeling that this is going to be Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn, just running quite a bit of minutes out there. That's who they're trying to allegedly build the team around, is Zach LaVine. They paid him a ton of money. If I'm in the front office of the Chicago Bulls, they should be building the team around Lauri Markkanen and probably Wendell Carter Jr. Chris Dunn is a great piece. I don't know if he's more of a Marcus Smart type of six-man or if he could actually develop into a good distributor. Zach LaVine, like we've mentioned already, is a terrible defender. But there's just no one else here. Like Cameron Payne. I mean, are we really talking about Cameron Payne right now? Did I really say Cameron Payne's name out loud right now? But he's the backup point guard here. That's just not going to happen. Denzel Valentine is probably going to be the backup point guard on this team.
Yeah, so, I mean, you push Markkanen up to 32 minutes, if we're talking about him, right? There's probably 17, 18 points a game in that. There's probably 2.5 threes. Like, there's some sexy things here.
I don't know. Like the backcourt, there's no depth, but the front court, you got Robin Lopez and Wendell Carter Jr. You have Jabari Parker, who could technically play the four, and you have Lauri Markkanen, and you have Bobby Portis. I do think there is a little bit of a crowded front court there.
So I'll say this about Markkanen. Are you super interested in him at his ADP? Right, I said 51.1 on Yahoo. He is ranked 62nd on ESPN. Like, if you're telling me he's only going to play 30 minutes a game like he did last year, I'm not super interested in him at pick 60.
If you're going to tell me that he's only going to play like 30 minutes, yeah, I'm not interested. I was saying this earlier to somebody, is that last year, due to the Nico Mirotic, Bobby Portis fiasco, which we debated, I think, quite a bit during the beginning of last season's podcast. Once Bobby Portis, for some reason, sucker punched Nico Mirotic, who is a beautiful bearded man, and that basically sealed the deal that Nico had to be traded. Lauri Markkanen got the start because Nico was in the hospital and Bobby Portis was rightfully suspended. So that means that the Bulls were not going to start Lauri Markkanen last year, which means they often don't make good decisions about the rotation. They don't make good decisions about like last year, they had to trade Nico. This year, they need to trade Bobby Portis or Robin Lopez. One of those guys has to go. And I do think they will eventually, even if it is for kind of scraps. Hopefully it's not for Cameron Payne. Oh, don't worry. We can't trade for Cameron Payne again. We already still have him on the damn team. I'm glad we got a lot for Taj Gibson's career. There it is. Everybody at home, drink. But they're going to have to move one of those guys to free up this space. But that's what worries me, and I'm jumping around a little bit. That's what worries me about Wendell Carter Jr. They weren't going to give Lauri Markkanen the start. I would say they're almost definitely not going to give Wendell Carter the start unless he really is just impressing everybody in training camp. And so you're going to see Robin Lopez at 26 minutes, probably Wendell Carter at 26 minutes, Bobby Portis at 24 minutes. You're just not going to see any of those guys get, I think, enough minutes to give them a boost in their normal fantasy value. Lauri Markkanen, I'm going to say, is the exception. Everybody seems to know that guy is special, that guy has something that could be all-star level offensive talent. And I'm going to say he does get a bump in minutes to probably around 32 at the very least. That probably makes him somewhere in a 50 to 50 60 ranked player overall in the season, considering his age, how much he could possibly improve. But that's where you're going to have to draft him. So drafting him at value, I would do that if that's the skill set I need, and only for that reason. You're not getting a bargain on Lauri Markkanen this year.
Yeah, and that's kind of what's going to steer me away from him in a lot of leagues, I think, is I just don't really feel like I don't feel like there's a lot of ceiling at the pick I'm going to pick him either. Like, I don't really see a way where he takes this huge leap forward into the top like 20 or 30. I think I'm kind of just picking him right where he's going to end up, and that's okay, but that's not a great idea in fantasy. If you do that with every pick, you're probably not going to come out very well.
Yeah, and some of the mocks I've been doing, once you start getting into that 5th, 6th round, you have some decisions to make about whether you want to take a swing at someone with high upside. Like, sometimes John Collins doesn't even actually fall this low, but everybody's on Johnny Collins, so there's a swing you could take at. I know people are Tatum around this time period, but you got to look at Lauri Markkanen as someone who has upside, being just 21 years old, I think, who shoots a good free throw percentage for his position, hits a lot of threes, can score and get rebounds. Like, that's a pretty good player to have in your mid rounds. It's a safe, I need to solidify my big stats type of pick, and I'm totally okay with you going with him over, in my opinion, someone like Blake Griffin, who's going to have better per game stats, right? But is probably going to only play 50 some games.
Oh, if they're the only two men on the board, give me Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah. Like, would you rather have Aaron Gordon or would you rather have Lauri Markkanen?
Man, that's a tough one.
Give me Lauri Markkanen.
I'm thinking Markkanen too. I think maybe Markkanen takes a little bit of a step forward. I'm getting tired of waiting for Aaron Gordon to take this big leap he's supposed to take. I don't think it's ever really going to happen. I think Aaron Gordon kind of is what he is.
Yeah, and that he's in a situation too, and we'll talk about this when we get to Orlando, where there's there's even a bigger bunch up in the front court in Orlando. So,
dude, they traded for people who aren't even going to play minutes, but we won't talk about that today.
We will not talk about today. That could take forever. Would you rather have Nico Mirotic or Lauri Markkanen?
Now, see, that's pretty interesting because Mirotic has some upside in the steal and block categories that I don't think Markkanen does. And
other than that, they're very similar.
Very similar. I think I'd take Nico, and that's not a slight on Lauri Markkanen. That's more, I'm kind of a big Nico Mirotic fan.
I'm with you there. You know, it would be really cool if both of them were on your actual basketball team and they were actually, just like played really well together. And that would be really cool. That would be really great if both of them were on your team instead of Bobby Portis, who's never figured out how to play defense once in his entire career.
I am so surprised that when he punched that dude in the face, they didn't just tell him, like, see ya. Because that's what I would have done, man. I would have just caught you and like, man, we can't have you anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, my theory is still that something maybe fairly nasty was said, or that the rest of the team just didn't like Nico Mirotic, that Nico was trying to take over the team. There's some rumors about that. But we don't have to get into Bulls rumor podcast.
Bulls rumors. That's our next pod. We're gonna start that one up.
You're gonna get plenty of Bulls rumors throughout the season. All you long-term listeners know that. So, but I'm not going to get into it. Let's stick to the fantasy. And so you think you would draft Lauri Markkanen first out of any of these Bulls. But I think there's another guy that Mark has ranked higher, who is also, like we already talked about, is going to have probably a bump in minutes, definitely going to be the starter, and that's Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn is currently ranked in Mark's rankings 40th, which is pretty damn high. But when you look at how elite in 29 minutes Chris Dunn's steals were, he was averaging 2 a game. He's probably going to average around 2 a game. He's going to get good assists. He had 6 assists last year in 29 minutes. His field goal percentage was a little low at about 43%, but that's not entirely terrible. There's not a lot of point guards out there who are going to give you a half a block and 2 steals a game while still contributing in assists, rebounds, about 4 a game, and not murdering you somewhere else in like turnovers or in I guess not shooting threes or having a really, really bad percentage somewhere. That's just not that's not really Chris Dunn's game. Like he's following a lot, I think, in drafts. You have Yadoo's, the new #1 fantasy mock draft site. Yahoo's average draft pick position, that's what it stands for, is 104.
Yeah, so sign me up for that. If I can get Chris Dunn after pick 100, that sounds real sexy. I think Chris Dunn and Lauren Markkinen are kind of in that same range for me, like that 50-60 range. If I'm doing rankings, like you're right, he's elite in steals. His assist rate, I think we talked about this in a previous pod. There's like the few guys who get around 10. Then there's like a couple guys who get like 7 or 8, and then there's a nice group of 6, right? Like that's kind of the third.
That's kind of the new. That's kind of the new normal for point guards. It's over 6 assists.
Right. So that's a good number. The 4 rebounds are good. So yeah, I mean, sign me up for this. ESPN's ADP or ESPN's rank is 56. I think that's about right. And on Yahoo, right? Like if I can pick this guy at pick 70, I'm pretty happy. And he's not even going to 104. So people aren't really going to be seeing him in their queue. And if I can snag him at like 70, 75, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, if you're playing Yahoo and I've seen him slip into the 90s a lot, and it's just like, well, that's not going to happen in a real draft with actual people who know what they're talking about. But I do see him going in that 50-60 range for people who either didn't get a good guard, a guard at the beginning of the draft, or has one good guard and wants to solidify that with another guard who maybe, his free throw percentage is not great. He doesn't attempt a whole lot of free throws, and that might change with the.
So you watch a lot more Bulls than me. So when he went to Minnesota, when he came from Minnesota, he had the reputation of like a real bad shooter, like real bad,
like a terrible shooter.
The limited action I've seen, he's been below league average, but I wouldn't say like horrible, like some people made it seem like when he was in Minnesota. So you watch a lot more Bulls than me. Maybe you can tell me, is he really, really bad? Is he somewhere near the average? Is he maybe even good? I mean, I don't think we have any numbers to support him being good, but maybe you have a different thought.
He's not a good shooter, but he's made pretty, I would say, impressive improvements. It did look like he got better, a little bit more comfortable as the year went on last year. He gets to the rim fairly well, and I think that helps boost his field goal percentage. He did shoot 32% from 3-point, so from 3. So that is like, I know he's not going to make a lot. He's only going to make 1, so he's not going to kill you in threes. But he's 1 is the new half of 3, I guess.
Well, and that's considerably below league average, like 36. Yeah. The league average was in the 36 percentile range last year, like 36.2. So
yeah, he's not a good shooter, but I think he is finding ways to score where it makes sense. You're definitely not picking him up to boost your percentages or your points.
Yeah, but I mean, if he plays 32 minutes. I mean, he's probably going to score you like 14, 15 points. Like, that's not terrible.
No, not at all. He's not a Rondo type player. He's going to score because he can get to the rim pretty well. And you're really looking at Chris Dunn as probably one of the last guys on the board who is going to give you elite steals and above average assists. After that, it's a pretty hard drop off. I know. A lot of people have let Jeff Teague slide. Ricky Rubio's down there, but there are certain things about their games that you're like, I'm not a fan of this or I'm not a fan of that. So those guys are kind of like, I'd say, in the same tier. But to me, Chris Dunn we know who Ricky Rubio is. We know who Jeff Teague is. Chris Dunn has the ability to get a little bit better, and that's why I'd put him at the top of that tier.
Oh, no way, man. I'll take Jeff Teague over him all day and twice on Sunday. But
that's a little aggressive.
Well, I think Jeff Teague's a top 50 player, and I think Chris Dunn is just outside that. But, I mean, we're splitting hairs there. They're both good.
They're in the same tier.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about Jeff Teague in the Minnesota Timber Bulls podcast. that is already out there. So go check that out, and the rest of our 30 for 30. Can't say 30 for 30. That's copyrighted, Tyler. 30 teams in over 30 days series. All right. We got the two obvious fantasy players out of the way. We kind of have a good feel for them. They're both young, so they both have the ability to improve. They could see a little bit of bump in their production, in their rankings. Mark's really liking Chris Dunn. Got him ranked 40th overall. I think it's a little high for me.
If you remember, though, Mark was really high on Chris Dunn last year.
Yeah.
And it comes down to the fact that he's a real good defensive stats contributor, and that really boosts your rankings, right? Like
steals and assists are rare, and that's what Chris Dunn gives you.
And a half a block from a point guard, like that's in the top 20% of point guards, right? Like it's up there.
You're 100% right. But those two guys, we know they're going to be drafted. Who else are you targeting in a 12-team standard league draft? And maybe not targeting, but how many more guys on this team would you expect to go in a standard 12-team draft?
Okay, so expect that they get picked, or
expect that they get drafted.
Okay.
Not you would draft, but expect to be drafted. All right, I'm with you. How many of those guys do you like?
Do I like? Well, I mean, obviously, it I guess depends a lot on their ADP and whatnot.
Just how many of those guys do you like?
I'm not going to own Zach LaVine. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I figured that one out.
Jabari Parker, I might, and we'll get a good discussion about him in. And then Wendell Carter Jr., man, if he lasts to one of my last two picks, I'm okay, maybe, but I just don't really think that he's going to get the minutes. So he's probably in this, and we talk about this tier of rookies maybe every year, right? I'm going to let someone else draft him. Hope he stinks at the beginning because we're playing Robin Lopez and Bobby Portis, and we're not playing Wendell Carter Jr. The person who owns him gets frustrated and either wants to trade or drop Wendell Carter Jr. And then I can acquire Wendell Carter Jr. partway through the season, like around Christmas time, and then get the back half of the season, which I think will be a lot better than the front half of the season for him.
Yeah, so I think we are on the same page for the rest of this. You were pretty dead on about Wendell Carter Jr. With Robin Lopez still there, with Bobby Portis still there. I think a lot of people saw what Wendell Carter Jr. did in summer league, and they're excited about his game. I am very excited about his game. I think he is going to be an incredible basketball, just NBA player, but also a very, very good fantasy player with the ability to hit threes, the ability to block shots, kind of that new age center where centers need to be able to hit threes now. Like that's just a fact. And in fantasy, you want to start looking for those types of guys. Mark's got him ranked 117th, playing 26 minutes a game, and that feels maybe a little generous until the latter half of the season, maybe even All-Star break.
So,
because, like I said, the Bulls are not great at doing mid-season trades, so they're probably going to wait till the trade deadline to move someone to get more playing time for Wendell Carter Jr., someone like Robin Lopez, which means on the flip side, they're going to be playing Robin Lopez at the beginning of the season to showcase how good he is in order to build hype, in order to trade someone like that. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head that Wendell Carter is not going to play at the beginning of the season. The owner is going to get frustrated with him and is going to drop him, because if you pick up Wendell Carter, you're going to have to hold on to him and just deal with the mediocre minutes until the latter half of the season. I'm not sure that's worth it.
Yeah, so I'll say two things about all that you said there. I think every GM in the league should know what Robin Lopez is. So I don't know, like, I think this whole showcasing narrative.
No, there's still the old mentality in Chicago. They have no idea what they're doing.
You know what I mean? Like,
they're going to showcase him. Like, they did it with Nico, and they won 8 games, and for some reason, they got themselves out of the running for Luka Doncic. So,
but beyond that, I mean, I don't know that it's showcasing so much as it's just saying look, this guy's not that old, right? He can still play 28 minutes a game. He can still play 20.
That's the same concept.
Minutes a game.
It's the same concept.
But I think more than anything that teams get worried that this person's going to go, he's going to riot and say, I'm not playing anymore, right? Like the Kings, I think, had this last year.
That's not going to happen in Chicago.
Like, they're worried that but see, like, if the player gets unhappy, we saw with Nerlens Noel, right? Like, the trade that Dallas made for Nerlens Noel was not near as big as it would have been had Nerlens Noel not been like, I'm not going to play if you're not going to play me big minutes.
Sure, but Robin Lopez isn't going to do that.
Okay, so that's
he's
fair.
Just not. Robin Lopez is not that type of player. And also he's going to, I mean, like I said, he is going to play.
Bobby Portis is that type of player, right? Like, if Bobby Portis is getting no minutes, is he going to be like, yo, man, you guys?
He'll probably punch someone so he can get more minutes. That seems to be what he does.
So leading through that theory, I think that Mark's 26 minutes breaks down sort of like this. He's projecting probably 20 minutes at the beginning of the season. And then that goes on till January or February, and then it's
30 minutes for the second half.
Right, and then so you know what I mean, and then the minutes are out to 26.
That's super fair, and I think that's pretty dead on. I think you kind of you hit Wendell Carter pretty good on the head. Unlike hopefully Bobby Portis does not do that, so I can see Wendell Carter play. Portis. So let's talk about the other two guys.
I want to get this Bobby Portis thing out of the way, man, just real quick because it's been bugging me. Okay. ESPN rank on Bobby Portis, 106. How's that possible? How's that possible?
How is he being drafted at 139 in Yahoo?
So I mean, like, okay, I get it. He gets his.
He gets points. He's gonna get some rebounds. What else is he doing? He's hitting some threes, maybe a three. Like, come on. There's guys who do that kind of stuff later in the draft. In fact, there's two guys on this team who do it better than him, who will probably be available near the end of your standard league draft.
But I'm not touching Bobby Portis in standard league. Like, I might stream him, but if you draft him, man, I think you're doing it wrong because there's no upside there. There's no upside for 30 minutes. Like, no team, even if they traded Bobby Portis tomorrow, no team is playing that dude 30 minutes.
Yeah, avoid Bobby Portis. He can't play defense, everybody. Just avoid Bobby Portis. Let's talk about the guy we don't want to talk about that much, the guy we don't like that much, and that's Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine's getting a lot of hype, I feel like, going into this year. ESPN's got him ranked 53rd. Yahoo's average ADP, anyway, is about 70. And Mark's got him ranked at 104, and I feel like this is another good showcase of why Mark's projections are pretty dead on. I don't know how everyone's ranked Zach LaVine so high when he didn't look that great last season after his surgery coming back. He shot under 40%. Do I think that's what he's going to do this year? No, I think he's going to be better. I think he's going to work at it. But in Minnesota, playing 37 minutes a game, which he will not play in Chicago, he was the 62nd player on average when he was healthy, shooting about 46%, getting less than a steal, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and 19 points and 2.5 threes. Like, what is there to be intrigued about there? His usage couldn't get any higher. His minutes couldn't get any higher. I guess his usage could get higher, but his minutes couldn't get any higher.
I hear people saying too that, like, oh, he's a 20-point per game scorer. Like, he couldn't score 20 a game when he got 37 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Like, what's he going to do, play all 48? Okay, maybe then he scores 20 minutes, but he's also going to be so dead tired he can't move, so probably not.
Like, could he score 20 points a game this season? It's certainly possible with the pace that the Bulls will probably run at, the lack of defense that they will play, the amount of shots he will get up. Is it possible? Yes. But, like, fantasy-wise, what else is he doing for you?
Here's an interesting question for me. Who scores more, Parker or LaVine?
Probably LaVine. That's a good question, though. It could go either way.
Jabari's averaged 20 points a game in his career.
That's true.
They're both kind of coming off this ACL. I think Parker scores more, and I think I'm in the minority in that thought. But I would say if you're saying who's the leading scorer on the Bulls, give me Jabari Parker.
I can't argue against that. I would go with LaVine. I think LaVine's really, really going to try to take this team over and act like it's his team. Though it's kind of weird, the marketing around Parker is like he came home. He's doing a lot of stuff in the community right now, and they're calling him, Chicago's Jabari Parker. Like, so they're going to showcase him too. Hopefully that is. I mean, it'll probably just create a rift between the two of them, and it'll be really annoying. But yeah, like
you got to remember too,
Jabari could easily be the leading scorer here.
He got 20 a game playing with Giannis. Now that was the year Middleton was hurt, but he got 20 a game playing with Giannis.
I mean, that's impressive. But like fantasy wise, Zach LaVine's going to get you hit threes and and a good amount of points. But isn't Harrison Barnes going to give you a good amount of points and actually give you rebounds? And isn't like D'Angelo Russell going to give you a good amount of points and some assists? Like if you need points, they're around in this tier where he's actually going. He doesn't deserve to be drafted that high.
Here's the discussion for me, and I think this was where it ends. If it's a Mike only draft, are you picking him in the top 100?
No.
Yeah, me neither. So no. Like you pick him at 53, you pick him at 70. Okay, well, you enjoy him, you love him.
Yeah, he is. He's not my top 100. He might finish in the top 100, but he's not my personal top 100.
Right.
But Jabari Parker is.
Oh yeah, I'm there. I'm with you on that one for sure.
So, like, what do you like about Jabari Parker more than you like about Zach LaVine?
So, okay, I think Jabari's going to give me 6 rebounds, which, okay, might not be a ton, but I think he's going to give me 2.5 to 3 assists, which is decent. Like, it's not anything great. He's going to give me a steal. He's going to be probably 0.4 to 0.5 blocks a game. But here's the big difference for me, right? He's going to shoot 48, 49% from the field. And he shot 48.2% coming off an ACL.
Yeah. He still looked pretty decent.
And I think he's going to score more. I mean, I already said that. So more rebounds, more assists, more points. Sign me up.
And I think you just made the case for Jabari Parker. So everybody out there who is drafting Zach LaVine over Jabari Parker, I think you got to stop. Everyone who's looking at the rankings and the average draft positions. So you got ESPN ranking Zach at 53 and Jabari at 90. Then you got Yahoo Draft at 70 for Zach and 107 for Jabari Parker. So one, I don't even think Zach LaVine's ceiling is 70. And two, if he's ranked that high and drafted that high, he's not gonna fall to you. You're not gonna get any value out of that pick. So it's, to me, Jabari Parker all the way. I think he's being overlooked in drafts right now.
I'm with you there. I wouldn't go super crazy high on him. I think you mentioned it, right? Like there's Harrison Barnes. There's other kind of similar guys to.
Yeah, there's some similar guys in this area. If you don't terribly like Harrison Barnes, Jabari Parker is a lot like Harrison Barnes. You can swap those guys in and out, I feel.
Yeah, and here's the crazy part. They added Luka Doncic in Dallas, so Jabari's points might go back to 20 or pretty close, and Harrison Barnes's might come down from 20 a little bit. Yeah. So Jabari might even be a little bit better this year.
Interesting. You wanna put that on the board as a bet, Parker over Harrison Barnes?
No, but I will put on the board that Parker leads the Bulls in scoring over Zach LaVine.
All right, put that on the board. I'm not going to bet against that, but I like that. I like that one. That's a good call. Let's talk about deep leagues real quick before we end the Chicago Bulls preview. Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington is a fantastic actor. One of the greatest cops or villains of all time. The Denzel Valentine is pretty much him and Justin Holiday are pretty much the only two other people on this team who are going to play wing and who are going to get minutes on this team. So I know Justin Holiday He does seem to get a little traction out there every once in a while. I don't think he's a standard league player, but he's a good stream if you want some points and stuff. But he's going to get less play with Jabari in town, et cetera, et cetera. But both Justin Holiday and Denzel Valentine are both probably good deep league types of picks because they are going to get the bulk of the bench minutes on this team.
I'm fine with all that. I would be a little concerned about drafting Justin Holiday just in the sense that he's got an ADP of like 130, 140 on Yahoo, and he's got a ESPN rank that's up there a little bit too, and that just seemed
a little too high.
It seemed a little too high. Give me Robin Lopez maybe in a deep league, right? We talked about he's probably going to play some minutes at the beginning of the season.
Some solid rebounds.
And I'll snag those minutes and then either look to trade or just look to dump him, like if he gets traded and he's not playing as much.
Yeah, he's a good offensive rebounder for those of you who like to play leagues that for some reason use offensive rebounds for no reason because that no one cares. Pretty good offensive rebounder in the league in general. Yeah,
so there's the Bulls, man. That's all I got to say about him.
That is the Chicago Bulls. If you guys are liking our 30 games in over 30 days series, please rate and review this podcast and whatever you're listening it to. If you want to further support the show, tell a friend, tell somebody in your league, tell your entire league. I know it might not give you a competitive edge like it has in the past, but it helps us out. And if you really want to help, subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. You're going to get exclusive content, exclusive podcasts leading up to the season to help you prepare for your draft, exclusive mock drafts, and also entry to Tyler's Dynasty League or Mike's Boring Redraft League, along with some other features that you can check out on patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. Tyler, where can people find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Tyler P. Watts.
Beautiful. And you can find me at Watch the Boxes. That's it for the Chicago Bulls, and we will see you next time. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com, where if you use the promo code BOXES, you will get a free entry into your first draft. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Michael, we have a great team to talk about today.
A great team.
And here's why. I think there may be a lot of fantasy value to be had on this team.
Wow. That is surprising because I am not terribly excited about talking about this team, but you might just convince me otherwise.
I think that some of these guys, here's what I'll say. When I say there's a lot of fantasy value to be had, sometimes that means some of these players are way overranked and some of them are way underranked. I feel like it's a good confluence of craziness on the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, yes, we are talking about the Atlanta Hawks here in our 30 teams in over 30 days series. And there's not a ton of high-end guys on this team, but I think you're right that there is a lot to talk about here. I'm not excited about anybody on this team except for, of course, Johnny Collins, one of the hypiest sleepers in the history of the league.
Okay, let's debunk this myth too. If your sleeper list starts off with John Collins, you didn't make a sleeper list.
It's not a sleeper list.
You did not make a sleeper list because everybody who's anybody keeps saying, "Oh, John Collins is my sleeper this year." Like, John Collins is probably going to be a top 50 pick in a lot of leagues. He's not a sleeper, man.
Yeah, even my mom is like, "Man, I can't wait to snag John Collins in the 6th round." Like, Mom, I didn't even know you played fantasy basketball. That's how'd you know about John Collins? Because everybody knows about John Collins. He's no secret. Everybody's been hyping him. Even the Reddit, the subreddit for fantasy basketball, has been talking about John Collins since probably almost a year ago today. So you're not ahead of any games here when it comes to Johnny Collins. But I do like John Collins this year. All that said and done, I still am very interested in John Collins as a fantasy prospect. Let's just go right into this. John Collins being the most hyped guy is that the most interesting thing on the Atlanta Hawks?
Ooh, no, but let's save my most interesting thing for a little bit because I think it might surprise some people.
Okay, let's talk about Johnny Collins then.
So, Mr. Collins is ranked 44th in Mark's rankings.
That's pretty high.
And that's only in 27 and a half minutes a game. And I keep hearing these narratives too of like, oh, he's going to play 30 minutes a game. Like, he got 2.9 fouls a game last year in 24.1 minutes. So unless he can stop fouling literally almost everyone, like, his minutes are going to get limited by foul trouble, at least some, unless he made a huge improvement in that area, which is not super easy to do in 1 year.
Yeah, I think this is the classic. We see it all the time. It happened with Mo Harkless. It happens with old what's his face, whoever that guy was.
Old who's he? What's he?
Old what's his face. It happens with Kyle O'Quinn. Man, just imagine if this guy was playing 33 minutes a game. Well, he's not. And John Collins probably isn't going to play more than 30 minutes a game, maybe 30. Could get up to 30. But, I mean, I think a lot of the hype comes around everyone thinking he's going to play 32, 33 minutes a game and that the numbers are going to exactly translate per minute. And that also doesn't always happen. John Collins down the stretch last year over the last few months of the season was playing about 28 minutes a game, 11 points, which is super serviceable, 8 rebounds, which is not elite, but pretty good, and 1 block a game, which is not elite, but okay. I guess what you're getting an extra bump in is the fact that he's very good field goal percentage, a very serviceable, not going to hurt you for that much free throw percentage, and the fact that he hits the occasional 3. That's a pretty good fantasy player, but it's not an elite fantasy player. And I'm also not sure if it's a top 50 fantasy player.
So we talked about a player last summer, and I feel like John Collins may be this year's Julius Randle. Remember last summer when Julius Randle was like ranked in both ESPN and Yahoo in like the 70s, and he was getting hype as like, oh, he's a big sleeper, and like, let's draft him in the top 50.
Yeah. I mean, people were like, oh, he's going to be like 20 and 11.
Right, and I don't think that worked out that well, and I'm not sure this one is either. Like, if you're going to take...
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, the issue with Randall the issue with Randall is that he didn't do anything else fantasy-wise.
Yeah.
Collins at least does some stuff fantasy-wise.
Okay, but where's he really going to get better? Like, you could say he's going to shoot a bunch more threes, and he's a decent three-point shooter, but is he really going to shoot a bunch more threes?
I'm sure. I could see him averaging 1 3 a game at best next year.
Oh, okay, so that's a nice little boost.
Okay.
How many rebounds is he really going to get? Is he going to get more than 8?
He could get 9. So. I don't know.
You know what I mean? It's like, so how many points is he going to score? Maybe 13?
Yeah, maybe 11.
Right. So, I mean, I think if you're picking him in the top 50, you're just kind of taking away all the value, all the upside of this player.
That's his ceiling, right? It is being like a barely a top 50 player with some extra bumps in all of his stats across the board. John Collins didn't play like 20 minutes a game last year. He averaged 24 minutes a game, and down the stretch was playing close to 30, and his numbers didn't fly up the board between 24 and 29.
Yeah, and if you're setting the over-under at minutes per game at 30, I'm going under.
There you go. So the hype train on John Collins, we hopefully we brought that right to a halt.
So even Yahoo ADP at 61, like, okay, let's just ask this question. We talked about the Bulls in the last episode. You want Lauri Markkanen or John Collins?
Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, so we talked about him being like a 50, 60 player. Like even 61, I think that's a little bit too high for John Collins. Now, sure, if I could get him at ESPN's rank of 100, yeah, I'm real happy about that. But I mean,
what about somewhere in like the mid 70s?
Oh, I'm okay with that, right? Like,
not a lot of centers left here in the bottom of this, so he does get a little bit of a position bump.
Right. So, yeah, if I can get him after pick 70, I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. But I'm still not like going, oh, I won the draft. I got John Collins at pick 71. Like,
yeah,
I just don't.
That's gonna help you, especially if you're in a roto league. It's gonna help you. Like, he's a little bit better, a little bit higher valued in a roto league because of his percentages. But yeah, like, he's a really good piece to put on your team to help solidify some of the stats you need. He's not a guy you build around.
Right, and I don't think like he's gonna change your game a ton. Like, I don't think he's gonna be like the player who wins you your league this year. I just don't see that happening.
I'm with you. I don't think that either. Let's talk about. Let's ask the question, Tyler. If you don't think John Collins is the most interesting thing going on here, then what is the most interesting thing going into next season with the Atlanta Hawks?
So the most interesting thing for me is what to make of Trae Young.
Oh, right to Trae Young. All right. I mean, and here's going to be the most entertaining thing to watch, that's for sure.
And here's why, right? We saw Trae Young produce some pretty gaudy stats at Oklahoma and be a really fun player to watch with the Steph Curry range, right? Like, he can pull up way behind the three-point line and hit a shot. So that's fun.
Sure.
And I think I told this story early in the summer, but I'll say it again, right? I think the Hawks are all in on Trae Young, and I knew it at the beginning of the summer. I visited Atlanta, and like everywhere you went, there was like this Trae Young banner. Like, if you went anywhere near the arena, they had like all these Trae Young banners hanging up. They traded away Dennis Schroeder to play Trae Young. Like, Trae Young's going to get big minutes, whatever big minutes on the Hawks is. And we can talk about that if you want.
Yeah. I mean, big minutes what on would the you Hawks say big minutes on the Hawks? 32 minutes?
Is it? I mean, like, look at the Hawks guys last year. Like, who played over 30? Do you know?
Dennis Schroeder.
And that was it, right?
But isn't, like you're saying, Trae Young taking the place of Dennis Schroeder? So would it make a ton of sense for him to just get slotted right in?
So I'm with you that he probably plays somewhere in the 30, 31, 32 range.
Okay.
The big worry for me, I think there's going to be good assists. I think there's going to be okay points. There could be a real bad field goal percentage on some pretty hefty attempts.
Yeah, I think like the consensus around the general fantasy world is that Trae Young is going to be probably under draft because of what a bad showing he had in summer league. A lot of people are ragging him. A lot of people are pegging him as the obvious bust. The guy who can't shoot, he's going to be terrible. He's going to be out of the league in a few years. I mean, all it would take is like a 30-point preseason game for that entire narrative to turn back around. But right now, I think people are actually underdrafting him because even though he's going to have a pretty, like you said, not great field goal percentage. In fact, it could hover around 40%. He is a pretty good facilitator, even at an NBA level, and is also plays the passing lanes and gets some steals. So for a late round guy, it's probably your last chance to go get not steals, but assists, other than the other guard on this team. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah. The worry, I guess, is that the field goal percentage is so bad that it basically forces you into punt.
Yeah, like that. He feels like a punt strategy type of guy. If you're in a roto league, maybe even the late rounds, you're like, I don't know about that, because he's going to shoot a ton. I bet you there's no going to be a handicap in him. They're just going to say, yeah, shoot the ball as much as you want.
And if you set the line at 40, I'd take the under. I think he's going to shoot a lot of 3-point attempts. and he's going to shoot like 35, 36, maybe 37% from three. And so the 2-pointers are not going to be much better. Like he's not going to get to the rim a whole ton and finish well because he's small, he's short, and he's not big.
That's true.
I think the field goal percentage will be under 40. The worry is it's like 36 or 37%, like it's near the same as his 3-point percentage, which could be a problem.
He's currently being drafted at 106, so a little bit of name recognition, I guess, but that feels pretty fair in a head-to-head league where he fits your punt strategy.
Yeah, and so this is kind of the one guy I think that ESPN and Yahoo pegged pretty right on. Mark's rankings have him 123rd, and a lot of that goes to the poor field goal percentage and the fact that Mark only gave him 27.5 minutes a game, which I think he plays a little bit more than that. We already talked about that. Yeah, I don't know that I want him in my top 100, but if I can get him after my top 100, there's some intriguing upside here. There's some downside too, but I mean, I pick 100, you right? You take the shot.
Okay, well, I mean, I like 105 if I'm punting field goal percentage, but I kind of like the other guard on this team a little bit more. And this is someone a lot of people, once you're injured, everybody stops paying attention to you, and that could be a good reason to not pay attention to Lynn's sanity himself, Jeremy Lin, currently being drafted at 142, ranked 141 at ESPN, and Mark's got him ranked 135. I just think that's pretty drastically low for a guy who's going to be the combo guard with Trae Young, who in the past has produced good fantasy top 100 fantasy value, even in like 28 to 30 minutes.
Oh, I think he's produced top 100 value pretty damn near in 25 minutes. I mean, you look at that season with Brooklyn, the first one, not the one last year where he played one game. I mean, 5 assists, almost 4 rebounds, 14.5 points, and 1.2 steals in 24.5 minutes a game. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, that is not bad. I think the problem is, when was the last time he was healthy?
Right, so he had a year in Charlotte, not last year, not the year before, right? So we're talking basically it'll be the 3 seasons from now where he played 78 games. He wasn't near as good, and he didn't get the steal numbers you'd like to see, which hurt his value a little bit.
Yeah.
Jeremy Lin is very interesting. I would definitely be willing to take a flyer on him with one of my last picks, which is basically where he's going, right? He's ranked 141 in ESPN. His Yahoo ADP is 142. Like, he's the last pick.
Yeah, that seems like a good risk, good reward type of pick.
I will push back a little bit. I've heard some people who are going on him as their last pick saying, oh, well, he could play like 27, 28, 30 minutes a game. We already mentioned it. The Hawks don't play guys a ton of minutes, and Jeremy Lin's just never really gotten a lot of minutes, right? He averages 26.6 for his career. Like, for one reason or another, he just never really gets big minutes. Plus, he's coming off 2 years where he played a total of 37 games.
That's true.
So to expect this guy to play like 30 minutes every night, I think if you're thinking that, that's a mistake.
And I think that's fair. I actually think it's going to be closer to 30 than it's not. Simply because he's really, unless you want to talk about Bimry, he's able to play the 1 or the 2, and he's going to be the first guy off the bench. He's going to be the 6th man here. He's going to come in and play with Trae Young. He's going to come in and play with Kent Bazemore. He's going to be able to do both of those things. So he is probably going to play heavy bench minutes, which would allow him to be standard league relevant. And so, taking a flyer with him on your last pick, that's a great upside pick. I am
100% with you there.
Yeah, I'm much more interested in drafting Jeremy Lin where he's going than even Trae Young, like at like 110, 105, wherever if he's in that range. I'd rather have Jeremy Lin at 130.
I'm with you there, given their values, right? Because you could easily see Jeremy Lin be a top 100 player in 27 minutes a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
He
that's
just has a nice fantasy skill set. Like he's able to get you assists and score fairly well for limited minutes.
yeah. So we talk about 30 spots of value on a player, like that's significant. And if I pick in Trae Young at 105, like do I think he's a top 75 player? Well, there's a some percentage chance there, but it's not that good. It's not as good as Jeremy Lin being a top 100 player.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The variance on Trae Young is very wide, and I think like the amount of games that Jeremy Lin might play, the variance there is pretty high too. But I'd rather take my chances on a throwaway pick at the end of my draft.
Here's the nice thing about a last pick. Okay, and this was kind of where Tyreek Evans was last year, and he's not going to be this year. If you could have a player like that who you know in the games this person plays, they're going to be good.
Yeah.
That's all you want from a last pick. Because what are you probably going to do with that last pick anyways? You're going to stream it some. So that's what I mean. So if I can get even 20 or 30 real good games out of Jeremy Lin, that's a successful last pick. It gives me the opportunity to pick up then somebody else or just stream that spot and give me some better value.
Yeah, you're right about that. All right. The rest of this team, actually, there's a lot of pretty interesting fantasy. Like, I think you've convinced me, Tyler. There are a lot of interesting guys on this team. But no one's going to be a game changer here. They're all just kind of really good, auxiliary pieces. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Ancillary.
But ancillary pieces. There it is. Tyler, you're on top of your game tonight. There's just a bunch of pieces here that fit into a team that's much better than it. None of these guys you should be really drafting that high at all, except perhaps Taurean Prince,
who ESPN hates. I don't know why ESPN is not a fan.
Yeah, ESPN's got him ranked at 117. This is where, like, I feel like ESPN just when they whiff by like 100 ranks. You're like, what's going on here? What in the world would make you rank him 117?
Well, here's the weird thing about the Hawks, right? So they got Collins at 100, Taurean Prince at 117, but then they have Dwayne Dedmon at 95. So they say Dwayne Dedmon is the best fantasy player on the Hawks.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to disagree with that. And he might not even be the third best player; might be the fourth best fantasy player on this team.
So yeah, so that was crazy. Taurean Prince is another guy I think that falls into that 50-60 range we've been talking about.
Yeah, if your sleeper list has Taurean Prince on it, okay, cool, good work. Like you're thinking outside the box a little bit. I still think he is kind of a hyped. He's 24 years old. He had a really good second half last year when he was playing down the stretch. He finished in the top 100 per game last year overall. And in the second half, he was pretty much a top 50 guy over the last 26 games in the season. That's a small sample size. So, like, don't take that as anything. But he's going to be an improvement from last year. Now that team seems to be trusting him with the ball instead of having Dennis Schroeder just pound the ball into the ground the whole time.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in Prince at both his ADPs. I mean, even Yahoo is 65.5. I think that's maybe even a little low, right?
Yeah, that feels like a pretty, like, you got a good pick. If you picked him at 65, you're like, nice, this guy could be a top 50 guy.
Right, so I feel good about that. I feel good about owning him, but like you said, I don't think there's a ton of upside on what he did last year. Like, I think we kind of know what he is, and that's kind of what he did last year, and it's good.
Well, what he did down the stretch last year, like his overall stats, I think are a good base point. Like, that's probably as bad as he's going to be was the first half of last year, and the second half of last year is as good as he could be. Mark's got him ranked 50th.
Yeah, right. And it just, like, if you look at those numbers, like, they seem fair, right? There's a little bump in points from his season total last year and a little bump in rebounds.
Now, I don't want people out there to get confused because on Fantrax, Tayshaun Prince is still in the list for some reason.
Well,
so
and if
don't pick Tayshaun Prince, pick Taurean Prince.
If you look him up on Basketball Reference, his name is Torian Waller Prince.
Ooh, that's a cool name.
So that like Waller Prince is hyphenated like Cauley Stein would be, like Willie Cauley Stein.
Oh,
So
I don't know if that's going to affect anybody, but it might.
So yeah, so if you see that, that is Torian Prince from the Hawks. That is the same player we're talking about here. Sometimes that name gets thrown around, and I don't know what the distinction is there. Don't ask me that question because I'm not sure. But yes, so some people say it's Torian Waller Prince. That's the same player.
Yeah, and I do worry a little bit, I guess, is that, you pick him up maybe at 65, 70. I think that's a pretty good pick. Like, that's probably where he'll end up overall next year, with the chance that he could be a little bit better. But he's not like elite anywhere. He almost gets his value out of being good or average across the board. A half a block, a little over a steal.
This is the kind of guy I like, though, in that kind of range. It's the Nick Batum type, right? Like, just a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit everywhere. I think it kind of just solidifies your team in a lot of places, right? Like, okay, I got a few more rebounds. I got a few assists. I got a steal. I got half a block. I got 14 points. I got 2 threes. Like, I got just pretty good production everywhere. I didn't get anything. I didn't get 2 steals. I didn't get anything crazy elite.
Yeah, I guess the difference here is that he is a great free throw shooter. He's a very good free throw shooter. But he's going to score and he's going to hit threes, and you're definitely sure about that. While someone like Danny Green back in the day, he was kind of like doing everything just barely above the board, except for getting like good steals and blocks. And then when his shooting fell off, and then that his points fell off, and then like a few of his stats fell off a little bit, he ended up being literally not even streamable. I think he's still streamable every once in a while. I think we did actually say he could be streamable this year on the Toronto Raptors. But like, if Torian Prince falls off a little bit here, he's still going to give you, I think, be able to produce points. He's going to be able to produce threes, get you decent rebounds. Like, even a little bit of a drop here doesn't drop him out of the top 100.
I'm with you there.
Let's talk about the other guy that you just mentioned, and I think his name is Dwayne the Brain Dedman, who did have a pretty good year last year, but shared a bulk of the load with a hilarious cast of characters, including Mike Muscala, who is a real silly-looking dude. And, of course, everybody's favorite sleeper, John Collins. It does seem like they want to play Dedman and John Collins together at the 4-5. I think Dwayne Dedman probably is going to play decent minutes this year. I think he's being just like completely missed, I feel, in some drafts that I've been in. He's ranked 95th on ESPN, 105 average draft position. Mark's got him ranked 114th with only playing 24 minutes a game. The 24 minutes feels a little low.
So we talk about what goes into Mark's rankings a lot, and this is the fact that nobody really played Dwayne Dedman a ton of minutes before last year. And then last year, he still only got 25 minutes a game. He's another guy where if you think Dwayne Dedman's going to play like 30, 31, 32 minutes, I just don't see that happening, right? Like, we're talking a guy at 20 in his age 29 season. Yeah. He's never played more than 24.9 minutes a game. Sure, could he play 25 or 26 or maybe 27 this year? You might be able to convince me that's the case on this Hawks team. But to say 30, I'm just going to say that's probably not even in my range of outcomes.
Yeah, and that's not in my range either. But even in 25 to 27 minutes, which I think is very feasible, he's a guy who can get you is another one of those guys. Like, this guy's just a puzzle piece that you fit in. Almost a steal, almost a block, almost a 3, so almost a 1-1-1 guy, and then very good rebounds, about 8 in 25 minutes. Okay, rebounds, getting 8 rebounds is pretty important. Everything else is just kind of there. Like, it's not great, but like, this is a guy who has a fit on a certain build, who could be more valuable, and also he probably ends up being, either barely or definitely, maybe I'm gonna say definitely a top 100 player. Then again, I might have like 120 players in my definite top 100. So
That's what I mean. Like, I don't know that I'd say definite, but I think he's right on that. He's on that edge, right? He's that somewhere. I would bank that 80% of the time he falls somewhere between 90 and 120.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's kind of an in-betweener. One of those guys where you probably if he's not having that, if he's playing 23 minutes a game, he's a streamer, and if he's playing 28 minutes a game, he's owned. It's probably in that range.
So I don't love the ADP or the rank on ESPN. Like, I just feel like you're kind of picking him where he's going to be, and that's fine. But at those spots, like, I kind of want something that could be a little more. So I don't know, man. I don't think I'm
the guy you pick when there's no more flyers left to fly. That's a weird way of saying that, but he's the guy you pick because he's still on the board, and you need some big stats, and you feel like he's going to play 25, 26 minutes a game, and you're going to get some big stats, and you're like, all right, cool. I'll drop him later in the year if he's not. Whatever.
But, like, give me Trae Young over him. Like, I feel like Trae Young at least has some upside. Now, obviously, if I need a big man, then obviously give me Dedmon. But, like, I'll take the upside shot on Trae Young. If him and Dedmon are two guys sitting there, I'll be like, man, maybe Trae Young pops a little bit. Maybe Trae Young shoots 41% and gives me some good points and assists and a decent steal number, and I feel real good about that.
Yeah, it's all about if you want that stability and if you need those big man stats. So if you I think even if you end up dropping Dedmon in because he's only playing 23 minutes, he's still going to give you like 7 rebounds a night. So like he has value in a fantasy game somewhere. In the deeper leagues, he's like almost certainly draft him in this area. But in a standard league, I'm going to have to be. I mean, I'd still draft him in a standard league.
Oh, I think he's worthy of being drafted. I just don't know that. Yeah, I think there's not much upside in it, so I'm hoping he kind of falls a round or two, and I just don't know that that'll happen.
Yeah, that might not happen. Did you want to talk about Alex Len? You got him listed here. Your boy, Alex Len.
So I'll further another narrative. I put some of these players on here to talk about just because guys like Alex Len often get a little bit of hype, and people go, oh, man, Alex Len, he's blocked a shot for me in the past. And
imagine if he played 35 minutes a game. He's definitely one of those players.
He produces good in limited minutes. Like, okay. The Hawks are going to play him. The Hawks played Mike Muscala. You mentioned it last year.
Yeah.
Like, Dedmon will probably play like 25, and Len will probably play 22. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Len gets 22, 23 minutes a game.
And he's streamable at that minute per game.
Right. He'd probably get you half a steal. He gets you a block. He gets you good rebounds, probably 7, 7.5, 8. There's just not a ton else. Like, he's in the streamer class.
If I had to choose, would I rather stream Alex Len at 22 minutes a game or own Dedmon at 27 minutes a game? Bit of a toss-up. I might actually go Len because I can just dump him anytime.
Yeah. So that's interesting. The other guy that we should talk about probably is Kent Bazemore, right? He's probably, he's been a top 100 player there for the last 2 years. Well, yeah, last 2 years.
You know what's kind of funny? I remember seeing Kent Bazemore here on the team, and then I completely overlooked him, and that might as well be the exact synopsis, the exact analysis of Kent Bazemore. He's being drastically overlooked, and he's actually a pretty decent player.
Yeah, so he never plays a ton, right? He's going to play like 27.5 minutes a game. He produces some pretty good stats in those 27.5 minutes. He's going to give you probably like 3 assists, probably pretty close to 4 rebounds. Steal numbers are real good, probably somewhere 1.3 to 1.5. He's going to give you good block numbers, 0.7 the last 2 years.
Once again, another one of those guys who kind of does a little bit of everything, and you can fit him into your team, and he's just going to chip away at some of those. You need some steals. Hey, there's a good late steal guy to pick up.
ESPN not loving another Hawk, 147. That's just way too low. That's not even drafted in a standard league, basically. I think he's probably pretty close to a top 100 player.
Yeah. Definitely a top 100 player. How about that?
So there you go.
He's definitely in my definite 100 top 120 players.
right? So that, and it's the same with Dedmon, right? But this guy you can actually get some value on. That's kind of the difference. Is Dedmon's going where he's going to be. Like if I can take Bazemore with my last pick, like it's not a huge upside shot, but it's a decent value.
Yeah, and in the past, all jokes aside, in the past we've seen Bazemore go on little stretches where he is quite good, giving you a very good value for where you picked him. And then he often does drop off and just becomes mediocre every once in a while. But he is good every once in a while to win you a week or two, simply because he's just playing really well, and the opponents are not that strong during those few weeks. He's another good guy to pick up for stability. I think a lot of these guys. So outside of the I guess the swing you would take on Jeremy Lin, the swing you take on Trae Young. Everybody else here is a pretty stable, good producer, with Collins and Prince being the top tier of that, and then Bazemore and Dedmon being the low tier of that.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy from this team. But there's just a lot of good producers that can give you some value that you need to win a league, man. Like these guys help you win a league. They're not going to be the game changer that you're like, man, I got such a good value on this pick. I won that league. Like those are probably not the type of guys.
Yeah, you can't win your draft in the first 2 rounds, but you can certainly lose it. The later parts of the draft are where you really do want to pay attention to those guys who do fit out your punt build, like if you need or help in areas that you need to fill in. And I think this team has a lot of those type of players. This is truly a fantasy analysts type of team. This is truly a Tyler team. No wonder you were excited to talk about this team going into this episode.
I told you, man, they had just a lot of guys who had you had a lot to say about.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. I think out of all of these guys, I'll end up owning Prince, Lin, and Bazemore in that order. Not in that draft order, but like I'll most likely take a swing on Lin at the end of a draft. I'll most likely get Kent Bazemore in like the 12th round or something like that. And hopefully I get Taurean Prince. I don't know. The hype might be on him before the season starts.
Oh, Mike's gonna be bidding big in my dynasty league. I'm calling it. No one let Mike get Taurean Prince. Someone outbid him.
This could be the long con. You never know. I think that is it for the Atlanta Hawks. If you are enjoying our 30 Teams in Over 30 Days series, please rate and review us on whatever you're listening to this to, or tell a friend, tell the people in your league, tell complete strangers, call your parents, whoever, tell them about the podcast, tell them to download. And if you really want to support the show and help us out, help us keep this going and providing this content, subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. We have exclusive content to help you prepare for your draft. And we will be interacting with our Patreon subscribers and getting them the type of content that they're interested in. We love hearing feedback from everybody. So if you want to tweet at us, Tyler, where can people tweet at you?
You can find me at Tyler P. Watts.
And you can find me, Mike, at Watch the Boxes, all one word. And if you're interested in that Dynasty League, we might have to start a second Dynasty League because I think the first Dynasty League is full, but some people haven't responded to their emails. So all you listeners out there who haven't responded to emails, get on that. Respond to the email I sent you. Because if not, and someone joins and subscribes to that Patreon, they're going to sneak into your Dynasty spot ahead of you. That's just the way it's going to work. So if you want to join the Dynasty League or my regular boring redraft league, both of these leagues, which we will be getting ramped up later in September, probably the second half of September. We still got a lot of time, everybody. Everybody chill out. Got a lot of time. Go ahead. Go to patreon.com/watching the boxes. There it is. And subscribe, and we will get you into one of the listener leagues. And the winner of the redraft league is going to get a prize. I don't know about Tyler's league, but the Mike boring redraft league's got a prize at the end of for whoever wins.
It's actually just meet up with Mike at a random bar in Chicago and have a beer that you have to pay for.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. You have to buy me drinks all night, and that's a good price. I think that I'll talk to you about basketball all night. I'll talk to you about a lot of stuff after a certain amount of beers. That's a good prize. I like that prize. Write that one down.
One can only fathom what Mike will talk to you after he's had about 10 beers.
Yeah, you will get a no expense paid trip to Chicago in order to buy me drinks. Sounds like a good deal.
Hopefully a Chicago listener wins this. Hopefully it's not one of our Iceland listeners. That's a far hike.
You know, the flight to Iceland is not terrible from Chicago. Not terrible. It's not. I want to go visit it. It looks great. I'm going to come visit Iceland. I'm going to hang out with our Iceland listeners one of these days. But until then, I think that's it for the Hawks. That's it for tonight. Everybody, enjoy yourselves. Have a good rest of whatever time it is during the day and the rest of your week and the rest of your weekend. Thanks, everybody. All right, I'm kind of balking on doing one more because I think this one's going to be the longest one.
I told you not to pick those Celtics, man. They're going to take forever. They got like 50 guys.
And we got a little bit of a late start, and I need to get to bed. So let's just put that one off. Is there an easy one out there?
Not really, man. We ate all the easy ones. We ate all the salad. We ate all the easy salad.
We certainly did. All right, I'm okay with us postponing Boston.
I feel like we did 5, so that's a week's worth right there.
Yeah, that's not